Everybody's talking to Paul. I hear every word they're saying on my laptop, on my phone. When life seems a constant battle, I tune into Earnest Prattle. It will brighten even your darkest day.
Hello, welcome to Earnest Prattle edition 20. And on today's video, I'm speaking to a beautiful individual with a fantastic life story coming all the way from Washington, USA. But before that, a little bit of housekeeping. Would you please consider pressing the like button, subscribing, and maybe sharing the video or leaving a comment? Any of those things, that'd be awesome. Thank you. And I also need to let you know, you can also view the videos plus other related content at www.earnestprattle.com. That's www.earnestprattle.com. So if you pop over to the website when you get a moment, please let me know what you think, maybe leave a comment, that'd be awesome too. So on to today's video. I'm now going to be speaking to a beautiful individual, goes by the name of Dr. Stephanie Carter, PhD, all the way from Washington, USA. So without further ado, roll VT. Hello, so Stephanie Carter, or Dr. Stephanie Carter, I should say, coming all the way from Washington in the USA.
That's Washington State.
Washington State, yes, get it correct. Well, you will probably correct me a few times tonight, Stephanie.
That's all right.
But before we get on to where you are at the moment, can we just let's go back and have a chat about your life story, which I think is quite an interesting life story. And it's definitely, you've overcome some, some major issues during your life to get where you are now. So originally, where are you from originally, Stephanie?
Originally born and raised in Florida, in Central Florida. So usually what I would tell people, we're going to get to this, when I lived overseas in your area, I would tell people I was about in between kind of Tampa and Orlando, and most people know where both of those are.
Yeah.
So I was kind of right in the center of the state, about an hour, hour and a half from each, away from each place. So born and raised Central Florida, but I kind of have been in different places as well, but that's home.
So we mentioned briefly you did make your way over to where I am, you're saying, but it wasn't specifically where I am. I think, didn't you go over to live in Scotland?
I did, yeah. I was in Scotland from 2012 until 2018. So 6 glorious years. I was there working on doing schoolwork at the University of Edinburgh.
So whereabouts in Scotland specifically? Because I've seen photographs on Facebook.
Yeah.
And you look very picturesque, the particular place where you was living.
I'm pretty particular about where I live, so I pick picturesque places for a reason.
Right.
So when I first moved to Scotland, I lived just outside of Edinburgh because I didn't really know the area. I had to have someone help me find a house because I didn't really know what I was doing. I moved over there, didn't know anyone. And so I kind of lived in Corstorphine, which is just outside Edinburgh. And then after a year, I decided to move to West Lothian, so west of Edinburgh. Edinburgh is in Mid Lothian, so the counties. So I was in West Lothian for a bit, I lived in a beautiful area out there, a small little village. but then I got some jobs in East Lothian, so on the East Coast. And then I moved to the East Coast. I think I was out there for about 4 years in total in East Lothian. And I lived for about 2 of those years in a place called Dunbar, which is pretty well known. It's right on the coast, all the way east. And it's really known for, well, it's known for a lot of things, but it's, I worked at John Muir's Birthplace Museum there, and he is the founder of America's National Park System. So I got to go to work in Scotland and be American, and talk to people about another person that used to be Scottish and went to America. So, and then I lived in a really tiny community, super small, no shops, nothing, for a reason. In the middle of a sheep field is where I lived for the last 2 years I was over there, and it was super picturesque. And
well, I can remember you used to photographs from the back end of your garden,
yeah,
and there was sheep at the back of your garden.
I had sheep for neighbors. The way my house was situated, I didn't have any neighbors on either side of me, behind me. There was a brick wall and a road between me and the neighbors across the road. And the house directly across from mine was empty for a long time. So I honestly was I like isolated living in the countryside for a reason. So yeah, I had very beautiful scenery, had sheep to chat to as much as sheep will chat back, and got to see a lot of wildlife, and definitely did a lot of traveling all over the country as well.
Beautiful country, Scotland. I mean, I'll be passing through Scotland next week, Stephanie.
Yeah.
I'm on the way to Shetland for a film festival.
You are so going to look forward to Shetland. Beautiful.
I am so lucky. Have you been to Shetland?
I have. So I kind of fell in love with Shetland as part of my research while I was in school. I went to different locations where my research topic, so I did my research on a museum collection, and the collection was found on the island of Lewis, so on the west coast of Scotland. And they live at the National Museum of Scotland and the British Museum. They're split up. So they went on tour around Scotland in 2011 on a tour, and one of the places they went was Shetland. So I went to the different locations they went to try to speak to people that had seen them, to get their opinions and that sort of thing. So I made a trip to Shetland to talk to people. Honestly, it is unbelievable. It's like the Highlands and an island all in one. So you've got lovely, beautiful hills, but then you've got the water. I think it was either Shetland or Orkney is where I found my very first piece of sea glass, which then led to my obsession with beach treasure hunting. So
okay.
Yeah, Shetland is beautiful. So you're really going to enjoy the scene.
Oh, that's fantastic. Honestly, I'm so excited, Stephanie, but I'm frightened and excited at the same time because of the COVID situation and my poor health. I've not really been out of the house for any length of time for 2 years. And so whilst I've got a little bit agoraphobic, so I'm a little bit anxious about it, I'm also really excited because obviously I've been nowhere at all for 2 years.
Right.
And Shetland was high on the bucket list. So, I mean, on the bucket list, I've got like, go visit Stephanie Carter in the USA, go to Shetland Islands. So did I drop that one in there? Sorry.
Well done.
Yeah, but no, honestly, it's one of the things I've always wanted to do. And honestly, I'm like a little kid again. I feel like I'm 12. Every day that counts, and it's only a week or so, I'm counting the days down, counting the hours down. In fact, I've already packed my suitcase, Steph. I'm not excited.
Are you taking the ferry?
Yeah, I'm taking the 12-hour ferry from Aberdeen overnight to Lerwick.
I did that too. Warning, the North Sea is rough.
Really?
Take some anti-nausea medication.
Thank you for the heads up. I'll get some medication on order. I better do that, hadn't I?
And it gets a little. My friend and I, she went with me. She came from the States to visit, and we went together. And yeah, it was rough. We were hugging the bed all night, trying to not be sick. So just take your meds, and you'll be okay. It's
I'm gonna potentially try and do some Earnest Prattle shorts, a bit of reportage from the ferry. So if I'm in no state, there may be very short videos indeed.
Well,
'Cause,
and I was just gonna say, while you're there, get some good fresh air. There's a lot of really pretty archaeological sites to visit. They're unbelievable. If you
you like your history stuff, don't you, Stephanie?
I do, yeah, I do. Bit of a nerd, especially like Scottish, British history. I mean, my country, you have buildings that are older than my country that people live in and still occupy. And that for me, I can't fathom, as my country is relatively young. And so that's kind of why my passion is, you know, Scottish history and culture. And that's kind of why I made my degree into. So.
And you're so passionate about it. I love it, Steph.
Yeah. I mean, we all have passions in life. Mine just happens to be I geek out at museums and history. So.
And cats.
Well, sometimes. I just happen to have a few.
So, when you lived in your last place, was it Dunbar, you said, or was it even more remote than that?
It was more remote, so it was the small village that I lived in.
So how did you go about? Was you actually on grid, or was it how remote was it?
Well, I mean, it wasn't super remote. It was only 6 miles from Dunbar, but I'd never lived in a place. Obviously, in America, you know, everything's a little bit more spread out. But for instance, in the village there, I had never lived in a place in Scotland where there wasn't a shop, even like a corner shop.
What did you do for social life there?
Well, you went to Dunbar. It was only 6 miles away.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but that's not so good if you had, you know, a pint in the pub, then you have to get a taxi all the way out 6 miles.
No, it's not.
Away. Yeah, but, and it's, you know, it's dark out there. It's in the middle of the, you know, I don't want to say middle of the woods because it's not the woods, but sort of countryside, lots of farming, agriculture, that kind of thing. And yeah, I had lots of adventures with deer jumping in front of you in the middle of the night while you're driving on a 1-lane road kind of thing. So.
And you know what? It's so special to share my fascination with Shetland and Scotland with yourself, Stephanie, because like I say, my adventure's next week, and you've already had a Scotland adventure, so you know all about it, and thank you for all your tips. Sure. But also, well, I've met you before. Let's tell the viewers about an event, I think it was in Derby in England.
Yeah, so we are in a group of we were in a group of friends on Facebook, and we all decided to have a meetup and just have a nice time and go to the pub and, you know, hang out together. And yeah, I came down from Scotland and everybody came from all corners of everywhere, so it was a nice time to meet people in person that, you know, maybe you just chat to online as a group and actually get to, you know, see people and chat and hang out.
I mean, just the record, it was actually, you don't mind me saying, it was actually called Happy Fatties, by the way.
That's fine.
But there is another group in London, is it the Club Indulge?
Yeah.
And that was always just something else we both wanted to do. We never got around to doing it as yet, have we, basically?
I think I went a few times. I used to go for
Halloween. You've been?
Yeah, I went for Halloween. That was my favorite one to go to because I got to dress up. So, yeah.
That's still on my bucket list. So I'll go with you, Steph, next time I see you when you're over these parts.
Well, if I can ever get back over there.
We'll get you back over here at some point. But no, going back to then, Steph, like I say, all those people from all over the place, and most of them have kept in touch ever since.
Yeah, so, it's a lovely group of people, and it's lovely, you know, how you meet different people and stay in touch with them. And I'm really grateful for so many people I met while I was living over there, Scotland, you know, people I know from England. Do I know anybody in Wales? I don't think so. But, you know, getting to know everybody and then thank goodness for social media to be able to keep in touch with people.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
So, you know, your time in Scotland came to an end in 2018. I can remember at the time it was a bit of a shock for you, wasn't it? Because it didn't quite pan out how you wanted it to, did it, Steph? So, do you want to tell me what happened, Steph?
Yeah, so my original plan when I left the States to go to Scotland, I sold everything I had. I wasn't coming back to the States. Scotland was my end game. That's where I was going to be. That's where I was meant to be. That's where I wasn't coming back. But sometimes life just throws you a curveball, and it did. So I was busy working on my thesis, concentrating on that, didn't realize my visa had expired. And I'd already been in the country for 6 years, and to renew the visa, I was getting towards the end of my studies. And it's immigration. Like, I understand their rules and regulations, and I couldn't show that I had $10,000 in a bank account to support myself while I was still there to finish my degree, even though I, had been there 6 years. And I get it, though. We all have rules and regulations for immigration. So
if you'd have had time, Stephanie, I'd have done a crowdfunding page for you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure if I would have had more than 8 days, but by the time I found out, I had 8 days to get out of the country, or I would have been blocked to go back to the country for a year. And I was terrified that I wouldn't be able to go back for graduation. So I got rid of everything in my 3-bedroom house, got myself and my cats back to the States in 8 days.
I can remember the time it was emotionally a testing time for you, and I felt really sorry for you the way things panned out.
It was awful.
But you seem to have been a bit of a beacon of inspiration, because it looks like you've got your life back on track. You did pass your exams in the end, didn't you, Steph?
I did, yeah. I finally got my PhD, and because of the setback of having to come home, it really affected me. And I don't mean to belittle what someone goes through when they lose someone they love, because I've lost a lot of people I love, my parents. So I'm not trying to belittle that. But
I've lost a lot of people I love. Stephanie moved to the States for a start.
Yeah, it felt like leaving Scotland was me having someone I love die. It just as an equation of how I felt. It felt like my heart.
Well, no, I felt that you was right. Your heart was in Scotland, Stephanie. That was the thing.
It still is. I mean, it honestly is. I'm pretty stubborn. I'm here for now in the States. I've got to make the best of it. And it's one day. So I sobbed getting onto the airplane, like walking through the terminal to get up onto the airplane. I was sobbing, and the flight attendants kept saying, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No."
Oh, bless you.
It was awful. And I cried for hours on the plane watching Scotland as I was leaving. So it was, and it's hard, a lot of people don't understand until you find a place in your life that's where you're supposed to be, and it's your place in the world, and then you don't get to have that anymore, but you've had it for a while.
It's like your spiritual home, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's almost like you get this taste of happiness and this taste of, your soul's happy, and you're finally like, oh, because I had so much loss in my life that for me, Scotland was not only, well, let's be honest, it was a little bit of a place to escape from everything that happened at home. But it just became my place in the world. Everybody, like the group used to call me the plastic Scot, the fake Scot. So even though I wasn't really Scottish, I was what they would say, okay, you're Scottish enough. So plastic Scot is what the group would say.
I think you could say more Scottish phrases than me, Steph, to be fair.
Well, I will say, when I worked in the museum that I worked in, where we had lots of Americans come in, they couldn't tell I was American. Of course, then all my colleagues who were either Scottish or English would look at them like, "Are you kidding me? She's totally American." But they couldn't tell. So I got a little bit of a brogue going on while I was there. But
what's the things you miss the most from Scotland, stroke England?
Oh gosh.
What's the food items?
The people. Honestly, I never met an unkind person. I made friends with people that worked in the shops on the high street. Where I went and worked, and everyone knew who I was and would ask about, how's your house doing and that sort of thing. And sometimes you don't really get that, even in small places in the States. You don't necessarily get that. I don't want to say intimacy, but where people actually ask you how you're doing, and it seems a little bit more. You're a little bit more anonymous in places here. So I kind of like I would never do well in London. Like, for instance, that's just too big. It's too loud, too noisy. I want people to check on me. I want to check on people. So that's why I loved the area I lived in. And even my villagers that I lived nearby, when they found out I had my heating go down, or someone's running a heater down the road to me. I mean, that's the kind of place I want to live, where people help you out. So
Absolutely.
yeah, and I'm not saying people wouldn't do that here, but you know, it's definitely a different culture. So.
It sounds like the oldie world. You know, back in when I was being brought up in the 1970s and 80s, that's how people used to be. Everybody looked out for everybody else. Your neighbours spoke to you. Everybody looked after each other. You could even leave your doors open and you wouldn't get burgled. But modern society and city living, etc., nobody cares. Everyone's out for themselves. And that feeling of a family unit is out the window. So to find a community where everybody cared about each other, that's a wonderful thing, Steph. So
yeah, and I feel really lucky, because most of my neighbors that I live quite close to in my village, I mean, I still talk to today. We're still friends on social media. I mean, even some of the people that I knew from the high street that worked in shops were still friends on social media. So it's I don't know, it feels, you know, I've been out here where I'm at now for 7 weeks, and I haven't really met anybody. And obviously I had 6 years over there to meet people, but I felt like I could meet people easier. I mean, there is COVID to consider, but yeah, it's a lot more impersonal. Plus I live in a little bit of a bigger area than I did before moving out here. So,
well, unfortunately, Steph, for your Christmas box, I can't send you any Scottish people or a sheep.
I'll take some food though. I mean,
yeah,
honestly,
what food do you miss? I'll send you some food over.
So this is going to be super random,
What?
but there's quite a few actually, because all right, one, there's this curry sauce.
Yeah.
And it's a powder that you get from like B&M.
Yes.
You guys have B&M?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about straight away. Yeah.
So it's called Mayfield curry, and it was a powder that you turn absolutely obsessed with it. And I haven't had it in 3 years.
Right.
Obsessed.
Well, this is obviously being recorded, Steph, so I'll keep all this. Right, go on, carry on.
Let's see. Square sausage, that's a Scottish thing.
Yeah, square sausage, yeah. I know where to get that.
Oh, British sausages, period. You guys have, you win on the sausage front, because our like sausages, we would call them.
We're still talking about food stuff here, aren't we, by the way?
Yeah, still food. Still missing food.
Okay.
Yeah, sausages, the crack of this, like proper sausages, so good. Potato scones from Scotland. I mean, think about stupid things like jelly babies and
what about HP sauce?
I mean, I did find some here. So I actually found a shop called World Market in here in the States, and it's a chain of shops that have world foods, like grocery foods, but also home decor and such. And I was there a few weeks ago, and I had a friend in Scotland. We were talking back and forth on Messenger, and I was sending her pictures. I was like, look what I found. And it was Tunnock's tea cakes and, you know, digestive biscuits, and it was HP sauce and Coleman's mustard and just you name it. And I was obsessed. Yeah. And she was like, I can hear you squeal through the messenger right now. She's like, I know how excited you are. And I was like, I found jelly babies. And, you know, even things like Mackey's, which is ice cream, but it was in chocolate bar form. And I was like, I know these brands. I think I found Recorderling cider, and that was my favorite thing to drink over there.
Oh, fantastic.
Copperborg or Recorderling, and they don't make that here. And I found it, and I was like, are you kidding me? So yeah, it's good to know 30 minutes down the road I can go and find.
Well, you let me know what you can't get, and we'll see what can pop in your Christmas box this year, Steph.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of British shops apparently over here I haven't hit up yet, but that's on the plan. So
okay,
proper chippy, obsessed.
really. Well,
can't get anything like that.
no, I'm not surprised, to be fair, but you know, we'll see what we can do.
Not the same.
We'll see what we can. Let's move on to your current job then, Steph.
Yeah.
So you've landed a position. Is it Curator? I'm trying to read this off here. Washington National Guard State Historical Society Museum.
Yes, it's quite a name. So we just kind of generally call it the Washington National Guard Museum. So
Okay.
National Guard, in case people aren't aware of sort of the military system in the U.S.
Tell me about the museum, Steph, please. The history of the place.
Yeah, sure. So the National Guard is a reservist kind of group from the military.
Okay.
So they do a lot in the community. Now, if they're called up to do things to help the military, they definitely do. They go to wars and that sort of thing too. But they do a lot in the community as well. So for instance, there was a task force that was set up to help with COVID, and we've got guardsmen and women who were giving vaccinations and handing out food at food banks. So they help a lot because they're a state organization. They help within the state. Right now, they're fighting forest fires here in Washington that we have that are quite frequent. So yeah, my museum is the oldest. We're in the oldest building here on, we call it Camp. This is called.
So when was that? When was that museum founded then, Stephanie?
So the museum itself was founded about 30 years ago by a group of volunteers. So everything for 30 years has been done by volunteers, former guardsmen, former military who are passionate about keeping the history and collecting the history. So we're in the oldest building, and it used to be, it's called the Arsenal. It used to be a place, it's right by the railroad where they would store supplies. So it's a good fitting place for the museum to be. I've only been out here 7 weeks on this new job, and I'm the first person they've ever hired who's a professional to do this job. So I'm a federal employee, and so I work for the government, but then I also, do stuff for the state because it's a state museum. So yeah.
So what kind of artifacts do you keep there, Stephanie?
It's all military based. So anything from, uniforms, we've got, I'm just looking around, I'm actually in the museum right now. We've got weapons, we've got, we tried to tell the story of the Guard sort of from, the start through to current times. Have you ever heard of the Mount St. Helens eruption?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was here in Washington. Mount St. Helens is just down the road from here.
Okay.
That sort of did the big kaboom in the 80s that exploded.
I remember watching it on the TV.
Yeah, and the Guard was an.
We don't get anything like that in Nottingham, England, I can tell you, but it was quite.
It's active. So
yeah.
Yeah, they did a lot with that. So we have an exhibit on, the Mount St. Helens and the disaster and all that. So we kind of go through it all. I mean, my favorite object in the museum that we have is a dog gas mask from the Second World War. Absolutely obsessed with it, because working dogs, they had to put little masks on them too so that they could get through the
so they should.
Yeah, exactly. There's a horse one too, but I like the dog one better.
So Steph, you're the curator. What does that involve basically on a daily basis?
I am the curator, but I'm also I'm the only employee, so technically I'm the director as well. Which I didn't know that coming in.
Do you have like school parties and stuff? Then you have to take them around and curate the different.
We will eventually.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm the only person here, it's hard to be open all the time, and because we're on a military base, sometimes it's harder for people to get here. Because you have to be checked out at the front, and the front gate is guarded and all that. It's a military base.
So you're the only person there most of the time, Stephanie?
Yeah, it's me. This is my whole show. So
is it quite a large building?
It is. Yeah, it's quite big. There are 3 levels. The basement is sort of where we keep our collections and that sort of thing. Second level is the museum. We have a big conference room that's used a lot by people here on the camp, including our general, who's the person who runs everything here.
Okay.
And then the top levels where I am, these were office buildings. We have our research library, all that kind. So it's all mine to deal with.
Steph's in charge. Steph,
I know.
I don't want to get you, you know, scared at all. Have you had some interesting going on at the museum of late?
Apparently, so my first week here, I was told by someone who visited me my first week here that it's haunted. I don't really know. I have some problems with some lights being on when I come in the morning that weren't on because I'm the only person here at night to turn them off, which I do. And then they're on in the morning sometimes when I come in, and vice versa. And some exhibit cases have been on during the day where they didn't get turned on. And I'm hoping it's just wonky lighting because we are in a historic building.
Let's say it's wonky lighting for now, Steph.
We're going to say that, but I have talked to another gentleman who has an office here in the building, and he said he's had some issues where, for instance, they were in an office and the door slammed shut and almost locked them in. And, you know, they were near the door, they were in the office, and that we don't have air conditioning in here, so no big giant wind to lock it shut or to shut it. No. And yeah, so there's everybody seems to think it's haunted, and so
well, if I was a ghost and I was haunting your area, Steph, I'd be a friendly ghost because I think what a lovely individual. I'm going to be nice to her. So don't be scared of any entities because I'm sure they'll only be there to protect you, Stephanie.
We'll just have a conversation. I'll leave them alone if they'll leave me alone.
That's exactly correct. That's right. So, Stephanie, what we tend to do at the end of my videos is I ask my guests if they'll leave a quick message for my mother. My mum's name is Anne. So would you be kind enough to give her a quick message if that's okay?
Yeah, of course. Hi, Anne. I'm Stephanie. I haven't met you in person, but I have met your son. I just wanted to say you have done well. He's a great human, and I hope you and your family are doing well.
Thank you, Steph. That was absolutely fantastic.
You're welcome.
Lovely. Thank you.